Number on the screen didn't match the number in my head, not by a little, by $63,000. I didn't gasp. I didn't slam my laptop shut. I just sat very still at my kitchen table, the way I always do when something doesn't add up, and I let the silence do its work. In my line of work, I'm a CPA, have been for 6 years. You learn that panic is the enemy of clarity. Numbers don't lie. People do. And right now, someone in my life had been lying to me for a very long time. I need to back up. My name is Natalie, and I am 31 years old. I work for a mid-sized accounting firm in Austin, Texas. I am organized, methodical, and, according to my mother, too cold for your own good. She said that since I was 12 years old and refused to cry at my grandmother's funeral because I was too busy quietly making sure my little sister didn't wander off. I wasn't cold. I was just the one who held things together. That's always been my role. The one who holds things together. My in-laws, my husband's parents, have always been what I'd call aggressively warm. From the first Thanksgiving I spent with them, my mother-in-law had her arms around me before I'd even taken off my coat, calling me the daughter I always prayed for. My father-in-law gripped my hand at the rehearsal dinner and told me, with genuine tears in his eyes, that I was family now, the real kind, and that family takes care of each other. I believed them. For 4 years, I believed every word. My husband. We'll call him my husband because what happened between us is its own kind of grief. I'm not ready to name. We separated 8 months ago. It wasn't dramatic. There was no screaming, no plates thrown. It was quieter than that, which I think made it worse. We sat at opposite ends of our couch one Sunday evening and acknowledged, like two reasonable adults reviewing a contract that had expired, that we had grown into people who made each other smaller. We agreed to keep things civil. We agreed to be fair. What I did not agree to was what came next. The house we'd bought together was appraised at $490,000. We'd put in a down payment of $95,000, $50,000 from my savings, $45,000 that his parents had given us as a wedding gift with no strings attached, or so I'd been told. The mortgage was in both our names. The plan, which my husband and I had discussed calmly and agreed on, was to sell and split the equity after paying off the remaining loan balance. Simple, clean, fair. Except when the paperwork started moving, my mother-in-law called me. She was crying before she even said hello. "Natalie, honey, I need you to really hear me right now." Her voice was doing that thing it did, low, trembling, the voice of a woman carrying an unbearable weight. "The money we gave you for the house, we were going through our finances and we realized it wasn't a gift, sweetheart. We had always intended for it to be repaid. We just never put it in writing because we trusted you both. And now, with everything happening," I held the phone very still against my ear. "We need that $45,000 back, Natalie. Before you finalize anything. We're not trying to be difficult. This is just what's right." I said I understood. I told her I'd look into it. I hung up. Then I sat down and I opened a spreadsheet. Here is what I knew. A verbal gift with no written terms is legally a gift in Texas. No promissory note. No loan agreement. Nothing. Their own attorney, if they had one, would tell them the same thing. This was not a legal claim. This was a pressure campaign. And I had walked into it completely unprepared because I had spent 4 years believing these people loved me. But here is what I didn't know yet. There was more. I started pulling documents the way I do at work when a client's books don't balance, methodically, without emotion. I requested the full mortgage history, pulled our joint account statements from the past 4 years, cross-referenced every large transaction, and that's when I found the $63,000 gap. Over the course of our marriage, my husband and I had a joint household account that we both contributed to equally $2,500 each per month. I had assumed that account was used for what we'd agreed: mortgage, utilities, home repairs, shared expenses. I had not, because I trusted my husband, audited that account in detail. I did our personal taxes. I did not scrutinize our shared spending line by line. I should have. 41 transfers over 38 months. Small enough not to spike my anxiety. $800 here. $1,500 there, $2,200 on a random Tuesday in March. All transferred to an account I didn't recognize. When I tracked that account number, it took me 2 days in a very carefully worded call to our bank's fraud department. It traced back to a personal account held jointly by my mother-in-law and father-in-law. $63,420. Taken from the household account that I had funded equally for over 3 years. I didn't cry. I want to be honest about that. There was a moment, maybe 15 seconds, where I felt something shift in my chest, something crack clean and quiet like ice at the edge of a sidewalk in early spring. And then it was gone. And what was left was something else entirely. I called my attorney. Her name is Vanessa. And she's the kind of woman who wears reading glasses on a chain and speaks slowly because she knows he'll remember every word. I laid out everything I had. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she took a breath. "Natalie," she said, "do not sign anything. Do not respond to any requests from his family. Do not tell your husband what you found. Not yet." "What do we do?" I asked. "We get everything documented first," she said. "Then we decide how we play it." I want to tell you that I went home that night and slept fine. I didn't. I lay in the ceiling dark of my apartment. I had moved into a rental 4 months earlier, and I ran the numbers over and over because that's the only thing I know how to do when I'm scared. Not pray, not call a friend, not cry into a pillow. I build spreadsheets in my head. I find the pattern. I locate the error. The error, this time, was trusting people who had spent 4 years studying exactly how much I trusted them. 2 weeks passed. Vanessa and I built what she called a very clear picture. Every transfer was documented, traced, time-stamped. We had bank records. We had screenshots. We had a trail that told a story a jury would understand in about 4 minutes. Then my mother-in-law called again. "Honey, I don't want this to get ugly. I really don't. We love you. We will always love you. But if you don't agree to release your claim on the house equity, all of it, we're going to have to tell the judge about the money you took from the joint account." I went completely still. "I'm sorry," I said. "The household account, sweetheart. The money you withdrew. We have records." There it was. The trap, except it wasn't mine. It was theirs. They had built this narrative in advance, which meant they had been planning it for some time, which meant this was not grief or desperation. This was strategy. The wife of the man they'd raised had been quietly managing their exit from any accountability. "I'll look into that," I said pleasantly. "Thank you for letting me know." When I called Vanessa, she was quiet for a moment. Then she made a sound that I think, from Vanessa, was the equivalent of a full laugh. "They just gave us leverage. They didn't know they had," she said. "Here's what they did not know. The transfers out of the joint account, the ones going to my in-laws, had all been initiated from my husband's login credentials, not mine. The bank's access logs were specific. Every single transfer had been authorized by him. At hours I could account for: 11 p.m. on a Wednesday when I was on a work trip in Dallas, 7 a.m. on a Sunday when my own card had been used at a coffee shop across town. 15 minutes of cross-referencing placed me categorically elsewhere. They had accused me of the thing they had done, but they'd done it before they knew I had proof of the thing they'd actually done. Vanessa drafted a letter. It was polite. It was extremely precise. It outlined the transfers, the access logs, the total amount, and it made one very specific request: release all claims to the $45,000 repayment demand, sign off on a 50-50 equity split as originally agreed, and we would consider the matter resolved. If they declined, the letter noted, we would be filing a civil claim for the recovery of $63,000 in unauthorized withdrawals from a marital account, and we would be forwarding the documentation to the IRS. Since those transfers had not been reported as income by my in-laws in any year they'd received them, I'm not going to pretend I wasn't nervous. I am a CPA, not a fighter. My hands were shaking when I told Vanessa to send it. 48 hours later, my father-in-law called my attorney directly. He didn't speak to me. He spoke to Vanessa in what she described as a voice that had lost most of its volume. He said they would accept the original terms. They withdrew the repayment demand. They had no further claims. The house sold 6 weeks later. I received my share of the equity, $87,000, after the remaining mortgage balance. I signed the final paperwork on a Tuesday afternoon in Vanessa's office, and she shook my hand and said, "You handled this with a lot of grace." I thought about that on the drive home. Grace. I don't think what I felt was grace. I think what I felt was grief. Finally, now that it was safe to feel it. Grief for 4 years of Sunday dinners and Christmas mornings, and a mother-in-law who I had genuinely believed loved me the way she said she did. Grief for the version of my marriage I had thought I was in. Grief for the person who, somewhere around age 27, had quietly decided that being trusted was the same thing as being safe. Those are not the same thing. I know that now. What I also know is this: I started my own firm 3 months later. Small, just me and one junior associate, but mine. I used a portion of the equity as operating capital. The first client I signed billed $40,000 in the first quarter. I don't talk to my ex-husband anymore. I don't talk to his parents. The door is closed, and I didn't burn it behind me. I just locked it, slid the key under the mat for no one, and walked. My mother called me last month to ask how I was doing. She still thinks I'm too cold. I told her I was doing just fine, and for the first time in a long time, that was the exact truth. I keep coming back to one specific moment, not the phone call where my mother-in-law cried, not the letter Vanessa sent, not even the final signature on the sale paperwork. I keep coming back to the 48 hours before my father-in-law called her office, when I had no idea how they would respond, and I had to sit with that uncertainty completely alone. That window taught me something I couldn't have learned any other way. There is a version of me, the version that existed 4 years ago, maybe even 2 years ago, who would have done the math differently. Who would have looked at $63,000 taken and thought, is it worth the fight? Is it worth what they'll say about me? Is it worth becoming the kind of person who takes her ex-husband's parents to the edge of a legal claim? That version of me would have quietly accepted the smaller number and called it grace. But here's what I've come to understand about that kind of quiet. It isn't peace. It's just postponed pain wearing a patient face. What I did, what Natalie did, what I did was not cold. My mother always said I was too cold. And for a long time I believed her, the way you believe things people say about you before you have enough evidence to argue back. But pulling those bank records wasn't coldness. It was the opposite. It was the decision that I was worth the truth, even if the truth was uncomfortable. Even if it meant sitting across from people I had loved at a notary table with a 6-figure discrepancy between us. That's not cold. That's the hardest kind of honest. I think about what my mother-in-law said, that family takes care of each other. And she was right. Just not in the way she intended. I took care of myself. That counted. That was the most important version of that sentence she never meant to teach me. There's a thing that happens when you spend years being the responsible one, the one who holds things together. You start to mistake your own reliability for safety. You think, they can see how careful I am, how fair, how steady. Surely that protects me. It doesn't. Reliability is visible. It just tells the wrong people exactly how much they can take before you'll notice. What I learned, what took me 31 years and a divorce and $63,000 to learn, is that being trustworthy and being protected are two completely separate things. One is a quality of character. The other requires evidence, documentation, and occasionally a very good attorney named Vanessa. I don't regret the 4 years. I don't even regret the trust, exactly. I regret that I confused warmth for transparency, that I let someone else's performance of love replace my own due diligence. That's the lesson I carry now into every agreement, every partnership, Every relationship that involves shared resources or shared futures, kindness is not a contract. Affection is not a guarantee. And the people who say, we don't need to put it in writing, we're family, are often the exact people who need it in writing the most. My firm is small. It's mine. The first check I deposited as the sole owner of something had my name on the account line and no one else's, and I held it for a second longer than necessary, not out of triumph, just out of recognition of what it cost to get there and what it was worth. I'm still the one who holds things together. I just finally started including myself in that count.